Okay,
Okay.
cool.
Perfect.
Fantastic. Learning and learning. Okay, so my name's RJ. I'm the strategy consultant. Basically, what that means is I'm the rep for Packback on campus. I work with all professors that are learning about Packback and using Packback. What I basically do is call them and try to figure out if the course they're teaching and the way that they're teaching would be benefited by what we do. And you know, I go as far as looking into their syllabi. We really customize the usage of Packback all the way down to what the professor needs. And what we don't do is require them to learn anything or do any customization on their own. All customization happens through conversations with us. So I think that's a big relief for our professors that have, you know, not only tons of tools anyway to work with, but now they've had to learn new platforms and so on and so forth. So that's what I do. And I work with Rakita. I'm lucky because she's a beast.
Thanks, RJ. You're nice. You're too kind. So I work also with Texas State professors in a slightly different capacity, where I will work with you throughout the term to make sure that the goals that you would like to meet are being met, helping to make sure that you feel comfortable pulling grades, answering any questions that you or your students might have. So really, I call it kind of the white glove service of wanting to be involved in being a team member with you as we go through the semester.
Yeah, and you know, it's pretty typical for Rakita to schedule check-ins with each professor, sometimes 3 times a term, just to make sure they're getting exactly what they want. And what she brings to those are insights specifically about their community that are really granular, you know, so they have a really good understanding of what's happening, and if they'd like to see something different, what's the best way to approach it. And she works with all the professors at Texas State that use Packback in some capacity, so she really knows the students as well and how they behave. The last little bit, if you aren't familiar with QR codes, I've been using them a lot, but basically you just pull out your phone and point the camera at this, and then it'll take you to a way that you can schedule time with me, or if you're a current user, it'll take you into your community as well. So a little bit about Packback. We have, these are old stats. This is in 2016, we already had, thousands and thousands of students on the platform. So we're pretty big. Just in Texas, I think we have over 100,000 students using Packback. We're probably at 300 institutions nationwide that are using it, well over 12 million students, and 1.5 thousand instructors as of May 16th. And we're growing year over year pretty fast. So I think it's just a testament to what we're doing. Our retention rate for professors is actually very stable in the high 90s, 94, 95%, something like that. So, that's kind of a little bit about the usage. Specifically at Texas, we've worked with over 10,000 students at Texas State, and over 100,000, like I said, in the state itself. That's over 125 courses that have used this, and they're really varied. I happen to have criminal justice being represented today, and marketing, but we have sciences, we have the humanities, so many different disciplines use Packback. These are stats specifically from Texas State. So 4 out of 5 students that we survey, they rate the platform itself, the usability, the reliability, the accessibility very high. And most of them agree that the exercise of writing every week on Packback helps challenge their critical thinking and writing skills in a lot of cross-functional ways. So just wanted to share some of these stats. One quote that I got was, I think Packback is more challenging because it requires you to think deeper rather than the normal traditional boards. And secondly, it's more engaging and fun to interact and score points at the same time. So there's an interaction that students are able to have, a gamification as well, that helps generate small bursts of motivation rather than, you know, this well of motivation that you have to complete a fully online course or a fully hybrid course. So we're really benefiting from that. The whole goal of Packback really is try to get students to care about what it is that they're learning about and to bring their own curiosity and background to it. Our solution to really trying to get students engaged in this manner is to tap like what's the source of engagement in the first place, and that's curiosity. They're curious, they want to know about the world, they want to know how everything they've already learned relates to what it is that they're learning in new material. Packback is a venue that's excellent at synthesizing those two. So students not only feel heard on the platform and seen because they get to bring in their own experience, but they're interacting directly with the material that you're providing. So before I hop onto that slide, I actually just want to show you how some of the instant feedback happens on Packback. And let me start from the beginning so you get a feel for it. The whole goal on Packback is for students to ask really strong questions. So when they ask questions, the questions are broken down into 3 parts. The first is the question itself. This is what you currently have on Canvas right now, where students get to post and, you know, this open-ended anything they want, and, you know, that's fine. But 90% of our work actually happens here, where students are elaborating on that question, and they're really doing 3 things here. The first is they're finding the material itself that's being presented. They're bringing in that vocabulary and those concepts, and they're defining them. The second thing that they're doing is they're finding examples of that in the real world. So they're finding rich, videos and papers and links, sometimes even formulas that relate to the material and how it operates in the real world. And lastly, they're asking a question on, you know, how do I take that one step deeper, and what do I want to know? And then down here they cite sources. If we were to leave the students with this, we would not nearly get the engagement that we get on the platform. So what we do is we coach them in real time, and I'll show you what that looks like. When you begin to write on Packback and throw an image here, maybe a little scary one, on the right-hand side, your rubric comes to life. And it predicts that the score is going to be low for the student. Why? Because what we're doing is we're assessing them by 4 criteria: curiosity, credibility, communication, and convention. So it's saying here that this question appears to be close-ended. How am I supposed to get engagement up in my course if I can pull out my phone and Google this term, right? Students just aren't going to respond to that anymore. So we encourage much more open-ended questioning. It recognizes that this post doesn't have a source. It recognizes that we've added an image here, and you can check grammar directly on the platform. This is excellent for English as second learners. Texas State has a lot of that, right? So we want to make sure that the students can get their ideas out and hammer out the language before they post. And then lastly, plagiarism. You don't have to go to Turnitin or some other platform. Just click a button and it's already here. Plagiarism is checked internally and externally on the platform. So each contribution, you know, is theirs. So from the student's perspective, all they're doing is looking at their score and trying to raise their score by following the directions that we offer them. So they're going to ask more open-ended questions. They're going to fill in more of the material, and they're going to cite sources. And when they do those things, they choose the score that they want. When they see the range that they want, they select to post, right? So you never have a problem on Packback, I got a 50, but I thought I was going to get an 80. It doesn't happen, right? Students decide what they want to post. So we set minimum standards for these students. When they don't meet those minimum standards, what we do is we coach them to the middle for you. So if they write a post that's just, hey, good job, I like that, right? We send them a coaching email specifically to improve that post and give them a deadline, right? We tell them exactly what's wrong, give them a deadline to post. What most of my professors do is they interact with the center of the bell curve, and then together we find the strongest examples of work, and we use it to leverage the thought share in the classroom. We share that material out with the students, and that's ultimately what raises grades. And we have a whole system for it. When students write on Packback, submit their posts, it gets reviewed in two ways. The first is we look for all the things we said we weren't going to do. So if we catch plagiarism, we pull the post. It's sent to us at Packback where we read it, and then we send a coaching email to the student to revise that post for credit, and then set that deadline. So we're really taking the low end stuff that you shouldn't have to deal with so that you have time to focus on the actual conversations, reading and learning that that has to happen in your community. And then, as far as sharing out what's working, when we see posts that are incredibly high in, students have put in effort or they're really talking about it amongst themselves, we send you those posts every week, 3 or 4 posts, sometimes 5. You can interact with them, praise them, and coach them. But even if you don't, you're going to get that in a Curious Reader Digest. This is an email that goes out once a week on Fridays, and it basically serves 2 purposes. The first is that if you haven't posted for the week, this is your reminder. And the second, oh, by the way, here are the very best posts that you can model. So this is actually the feedback loop that raises grades for us, because students get to see excellent work on a regular basis when they are creating their work, and it makes all the difference. So a little bit of background on Packback that I wanted to share. I won't go too much further, but kind of the way we work is I create these plans for my professors, and then I pass them off to Rakita. This is supposed to be Rakita, and she takes it from there and makes sure that they have an awesome experience. And like I said, our retention rate is very good for that, considering the amount of churn that's happening these days in professors. So that's Packback. What I really wanted to do today, though, was introduce you to 3 awesome people. The first is Dr. Cory Fox, who is an assistant professor at the Department of Management, longtime user of Packback, has written a couple case studies, and actually recently wrote an article, talking about, well, I'll let him talk about it. Can you hear us, Cory?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe a little bit about how you started using Packback, and also about this article that you wrote.
Sure. So, Dr. Cory Fox, I'm an assistant professor here at Texas State. I work in the Department of Management, and I primarily teach the capstone course here in the McCoy College. That's a course that all business majors have to take before they graduate. Typically, they take that course in their very final semester here on campus. I don't know exactly how long I've been using Packback, but I know it's been several years, and I think I was maybe one of the first to adopt it here at Texas State. Maybe I don't know if that's 100%, so don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure I was one of the first few. So I really enjoy the platform. What I was looking for was I've been teaching online since before the pandemic. So the past couple of years, I've actually been teaching fully online, and I was looking for something more than just the discussion platform that we had in Tracks, which I thought was very sterile, not inviting, not engaging. So I was looking for something a bit more exciting for my students to increase engagement, especially when you're offline. When you're online teaching, in stimulating that engagement and that back and forth between students can be challenging. So I was looking for something that was better than what we had in our LMS system. In terms of the article, so I have written just a short article here, more of like a blog posting, and I was approached by my prior experience manager, and she said, "Hey, I've got an idea. Would you be interested in doing this?" And she basically said, we're looking to get students tips. They're facing this post-pandemic world. They're going to be looking for jobs, and do you have any tips that you could give to these students? So I gave 5 kind of short tips, some informed by my own experiences, and then I've got a number of, being in management, a number of folks who work in the HR field. So I reached out to them and got some feedback from them as well. And one of the tips, I'm kind of bring this back to Packback specifically, was, take advantage of this time where you're interacting in a virtual environment to build up your skill sets. And I think for me, Packback does a particularly good job of building up a number of skills that companies are looking for right now, and they're going to be looking for these skills, the next 3-5 years. Some companies are not going back to traditional, face-to-face business as usual. And so for me, Packback contributes to, number one, critical thinking, as RJ has kind of already talked a little bit about. So it really challenges the students to go out and find articles and find videos and really do their own research and informing their opinions about whatever the questions are that they're either asking or answering. So critical thinking is really, really big. That's something that I see myself, and that my friends in the HR world have been looking at in terms of wanting their candidates to have. Virtual communication, also very, very important. So in this interpersonal, virtual back and forth, being able to communicate with your colleagues, and in this case, it's your classmates. But Packback does a great job of helping these students hone those virtual interpersonal communication skills. So I think that's really, really important. That's something that companies are looking at. And then last is the writing. So I get seniors in my class, and I'll tell you what, when I was teaching face-to-face, I couldn't believe in some instances some of the things that were getting turned in, just in terms of the writing of those assignments. And so the Packback really gives them an opportunity to improve upon their writing, right? Because it's got all of these built-in, live features that as they're typing, it's telling them, hey, you've got an error here. Hey, this isn't a complete thought or a complete sentence. And so it helps them improve their writing. And when you continue to do that every single week, and in my course, I have them do at least 2 response posts a week. That's really great practice for them to improve upon their writing. So for me, I think Packback is great. It helps them improve on a number of things, build their skill sets, which is going to be really, really important here in the next several years as we think about life post-COVID. So I'll end there. I know you don't want to hear me talk anymore, so pass that back off to RJ.
Yeah. Oh, it seems like you're muted, maybe. Yeah.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. I think there are a lot of practical takeaways from that, definitely thinking about the job market and the skills for tomorrow, that HR companies are looking for. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that share. The second person I wanted to introduce, not only is she an amazing speller because she caught a couple typos in my presentation this morning, but Dr. Luca Summers, Associate Professor in the School of Criminal Justice and Program Coordinator there. She had a pretty unique onboarding to Packback or experience with Packback at first. So Lucia, tell us a little bit about yourself and how that experience went for you.
It was, you were saying thank you for being here, and I just wanted to say thank you again. I'm just so grateful to you guys, because I was teaching this course, which Cory's, it was like a capstone course, and there's a lot of debate and discussion, all these, controversial issues and topical issues in criminal justice and criminology, and there's all these class discussions and debates, and then this happened, and then overnight it's like we're doing everything online, and I was like, oh my god, how am I going to do this? So to be able to put it in place, and to put it in place as quickly as you did, that was a really, it was really a lifesaver. And And you're right, I've only got, I had a smaller class because this is a writing intensive class, so it's capped at 35. But still, if you're doing these kind of repeated, kind of debates and discussions and so on, and that's what really helps as well, like Cory is saying, if you're doing something and you're doing it enough, it's with practice that you get good at writing. It's with practice that you get good at spotting things and questioning things and seeing other examples all the time. That's when you really internalize and consolidate all of those skills and that knowledge. And I was just like, I'm not going to be able to do this with these many students and to manage all that. So that was ever so helpful. So I was just really grateful for that. And just to, agree with some of the stuff that Cory was talking about and that you were highlighting in the presentation. That instant feedback, that's so good, because often, they take on so many courses and they kind of like, and they're not paying attention to the instructions, and then they put something in and then you go like, it's in the rubric, it's in the instructions, why do you do that? You're losing points. Right. So to have that is kind of individual to them, that was really good. To have the space for them to really talk to one another, because in the class, it's limited and you've only got so much time, and with so many, even with 35, you only have so much time for talking and listening to each other and so on. Mm-hmm. The ones that were shy kind of benefited from this as well, because they found it easier as well. It's at a higher level as well, because they have time to see someone's question and then look into it and then do some research. So important. That's something that we really emphasize on the course as well. That critical thinking and critical evaluation. It's like, okay, well, so-and-so is saying this, and then they're contradicting them, and what's the evidence for that? And the emphasis on the question was so good, because it's like, well, what would you like to know next before you make a decision about this? What other information do you need, right? It's so important to have as much data, as much information as possible, because all these things are complicated. So it was really, I wasn't aware of Packback before the spring semester. I was actually exposed to it as a student because I was auditing a colleague's course. So within the same semester, I saw it from both angles, and I just think it's got so much potential to help the students, but also to do it in a way that you wouldn't be able to do it as an instructor otherwise, even with a small class size. So that was my experience.
Thank you. Yeah, one of the major takeaways that I get from my professors often is just it allows for a consistency that would otherwise be impossible.
Just impossible. Even with the, we have teaching assistants, and, even just keeping track, just like a normal discussion of who's posted what, and it's just a major enterprise, and it might be something that you do 2-3 times, but not something that you're going to be able to do on a regular basis. And that's regular basis. I think that's really important. So I think it's an amazing tool.
And you use it for more of an upper level course where the contributions are going to be weighted a little bit more heavy than maybe an intro course where the contributions are just exploratory.
Yeah, absolutely. But for me, my experience was really great. The only reason I'm not using it now is because I'm teaching a PhD level class. I've only got 6, so I can manage them. But and that's the only reason I'm not using it. But I had a really great experience with the actual product itself, but also with the support and the responsiveness from you guys. That was so.
Oh, stop.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's fantastic. The last person I'd like to introduce is Ken Murdock, the legend. He teaches a senior lecturer in the Department of Marketing and has also been using Packback for quite a while, fairly large courses. So if we kind of think about Lucia having very small courses, a more higher level, smaller courses. Cory having like medium-sized courses. Ken probably has the biggest courses out of everybody here. So there's kind of a good range. Ken, I know that you got a chance to do some feedback. Specifically, you asked your students, write some of the experience that you write out some of the experience that you've had with Packback, and then shared it with us. So I was curious if you could talk a little bit about how you started using Packback and what it's done, and some of that student feedback.
Sure. I don't know. I think it's 4 years. I can't remember how long specifically, but it was right after I started teaching in hybrid and online format. I went through a training program along with Kevin back in 2016 to learn how to teach online. And then that was in the spring. I think I started using Packback fall of 2016, might have been 17, but I think it was 16. Anyway, the thing that appealed to me about it, I'll tell you a lot of things that appeal to me. I'll try to be brief though. The first one is that when I was in the classroom, even when I was teaching in person, had really large sections. Most of my classes were around 240, 250 students in the largest classroom we had in the building. And classes are 80 minutes. And the arithmetic alone tells you that in an 80-minute class, if you have 240, 250 students, even if everybody wanted to say something, they couldn't. There's just not enough time. You're limited by too many people and too little time. And I like to talk as well, so that doesn't give everybody else a lot of time, to get their points through. So when you have a week to do a Packback assignment, everybody has plenty of time, and not only that, plenty of time, they have enough time to think about it, edit whatever they want to say. I really believe that a lot of the learning that takes place in the class takes place during class discussion. But a lot of people, even if they have something important to say or have a question, there's some people who just will not speak up in the classroom. For any number of reasons, they just don't like to talk and they're afraid to ask a question. The Packback platform eliminates that problem. Nobody is standing up in front of everybody else. Nobody has to be nervous. They don't have to worry about, I don't want anybody looking at me, whatever it may be. And so it eliminates the problem of reluctance to speak, in person with other people. A lot of the time, students, when they're asked to write a paper or something like that, they may not do as much research as maybe they ought to. Packback certainly offers everybody so many different perspectives. I start out with what we call the starter question. I guess everybody's got something similar to it. And Packback is really good about making sure people stay sort of on topic. If I ask a question about a particular thing in the news has to do with marketing, they can't reply with something about Humpty Dumpty or something like that and get away with it. So, I like the fact that I don't have to personally grade or look at everything, everything myself. It's the closest thing you can get that I've seen to in-class banter back and forth, where people get to share with each other. And one thing I do that I wish I could say I was brilliant enough to think of this and all the benefits that would come from it, but it just happened by accident. My first semester or two with Packback, I was always just trying to figure out, well, what can I ask them this week or next week or whatever it may be? And our book that we use, and I teach the very first course in the Principles of Marketing. I describe the course as a mile wide and an inch deep. We don't cover anything in a great deal of depth, but we touch on a lot of different things. And so what I do with Packback, like I say, originally it wasn't intentional this way, but I've kept it this way after I saw how well it worked. I intentionally try to ask questions that are not on the topic of the chapter that we're talking about that week. For example, we have a chapter in our book, I think it's chapter 4, about consumer behavior. Well, I'm not going to ask a consumer behavior question on the week that we're talking about consumer behavior. And the reason I do that is that when these students get out of here and they go to work somewhere, work does not come to you in organized chapters. You know, every day you have to deal with everything. And so if they're studying a chapter on a particular topic like consumer behavior or marketing research or something like that, they may well need to be able to deal with something else that pops up unexpectedly at the same time. And that's what I try to use Packback for, is to make them get out of their comfort zone that they settle into for a particular topic that may be the subject that we're discussing that week in the book. But I don't want their experience in my class to be limited to just what we're talking about in the book. And the other thing that it does for me, it's very timely. You can immediately go to something in the news if you want to, using Packback. And this semester was a great example. I mean, you know, we have a presidential election only once every 4 years. And so I used that opportunity to ask some questions about, well, how well do you think this candidate is promoting their ideas? And what did you think about this particular argument that so-and-so had? And asked a lot of marketing related questions. You know, Apple's always really good for something to do with marketing. And, you know, every time they come out with a new product, you know, and you see people standing in line 3 days before the store opens. And we talk about consumer behavior like that. And while some people are, you know, initiators and some are laggards when it comes to adopting new products. So it lets you go where you need to go, when you need to go there, and let you be as flexible as you need to be. It compels participation. And just my observation is I think one skill that a lot of college students do not have as well as they should is critical thinking and the ability to express themselves effectively in writing. I think that's a skill that's not what it was 20, 30 years ago. And I use Packback. I think I scare the hell out of them sometimes because they'll throw something out and they think they're going to get away with it, and I'll write them back. I don't see every one of them by any stretch, but I'll write them back and I say, why did you say T-H-E-R-E instead of T-H-E-I-R there? You think you don't notice these little things. And I do. Not for everybody, but
right.
It allows you that opportunity if you want to take it.
Well, yeah, I mean, thank you so much. I think that, you know, one of the takeaways that I get from my professors as well is, you know, making sure that the writing that comes back is a little bit slowed down. You know, one of the things of living in this generation where you have, you know, just ubiquitous speed is that no one really is sitting down and thinking about what they're going to contribute before they contribute it. And Packback just builds a system that allows for that. So you definitely get that benefit. So I appreciate that. I definitely wanted to share in the chat some of the articles that I was referencing. So definitely Cory Fox, your article on postgraduate employment, it seems like it's a big focus of yours. So I'll drop this in the chat once we get into more of the chat questions. And then also I'll share that student feedback that you got, Ken, as well in the chat so people can take a look at it. So hold tight. So Rakita, if you could talk a little bit about the, the breakout, like what we were actually going to talk about today.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about, just kind of the overall impact that you all as professors are seeing while using Packback in your courses. And I think a big key that I also wanted us to touch on is just the amount of time and energy that you're not having to use, so without sacrificing that quality or critical thinking. So I wanted to know if anybody wanted to share kind of how their experience with Packback and how they think it saved them time.
I'm happy to jump in if that's okay. So one of the things, with the traditional kind of LMS systems is there's not really an easy way to go through and assess the quality of the post without reading the post or just doing kind of a snapshot like, oh, this one's only 2 sentences, so this one is 5, so that one must be, higher quality. And so if you're doing, kind of multiple postings per week, you could have upwards of hundreds of posts to get through. And I know that all of us have a lot of things competing for our time. And so one of the things that I like about the Packback is the curiosity score. It's not perfect. So for those who don't use it, it's not a percentage, by the way. So when they show you the percentages there, so it's not an easy way to go through and say, oh, this one is a 70. It means it's about a 70% of a post, a C-level post. But that's an aside. But I like to go through and look at that curiosity score. And if I see, there's 2 things that I look for, and it helps me identify it really quick. Number one is if there's a student that's struggling. So if any student gets below a 40 on that curiosity score, I'll go in and coach the post myself. And the coaching for the post is again, it's 100% private to the student, but it's just a couple of pointers like, hey, this looks like the start of an interesting post. Have you thought about this? Here are some ways that you can improve your post for the future. So it helps me to flag the posts that I think, or the students that I think need some help. And then it also helps me to identify the students who are putting a ton of effort into it. And those are the posts that I can feature so that other students can get an idea of what a really great post look like. So it's really easy to do with the curiosity score. I can just kind of breeze right through. I do read all the posts too, but it's much easier to get through. And I'd say that at least 70% of the time, if it's below 40 or it's over 75, it correlates to either poor or high performing posts. So it saves me a ton of time.
Fantastic.
And I know, Ken, you have in your current community right now, you have just over 4,300 posts, like just questions alone. And so if we're looking at with responses also, you have about 12,000 posts in your community right now. Because of how large your course is. So there's just no way that you can read all of these questions. So I wanted to know kind of how do you spend your time on Packback currently, Ken?
Speaking to me again?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, could you say the last part of it? I didn't get the last part.
Oh, I was saying, how do you currently spend your time on Packback, given like how many students and posts are in your community?
Oh, Lord. I use the feature on Packback that kind of highlights the best ones each week. I also look at those who have the leaders in the curiosity scores. And it's pretty easy in the Canvas gradebook to look at who's doing well as far as the, how their grades are going and who's earning the credit for Packback. The way I have it set up, it's an all or nothing deal. There is no partial credit for Packback. So you have to meet all the requirements, asking a question, doing 2 responses, and getting the minimum curiosity score of 150, which is not, I just don't think that's an onerous burden to anybody. That's pretty reasonable, really. And so I look at those who are consistently asking questions that a lot of other people respond to, and you know, those who are really good at asking well-crafted questions tend to get more responses than those who do not. And so you know, I do the coaching thing, and I'll I can't remember what the feature is in Packback where you recognize somebody doing really well.
Praise.
You know, students love that stuff. They love competing, and certainly everybody likes being singled out for praise. I mean, that's a universal human nature thing. So I use a lot of that, and probably, I don't know, maybe every week, you know, I've got 470 students this semester. I'll probably do 12 to 15 short notes to those who have really done something outstanding that week. I don't send everybody in the class a note every semester, but I'll send out a bunch of them, and it's surprising how much students value and crave that recognition and their, you know, the feedback, that to let them know, when they know that somebody's looking and likes what they've done, that means a lot to them.
Yeah. Is that about 30 minutes then? Would you say, like, a week?
Maybe. You know, a lot of times I'll have the same response for 8 or 10 of them. If I see 10 excellent posts, I may just copy and paste the same thing to all of them because it's accurate for all of them.
Yeah.
So I don't have to create the same thing every time. I just paste it to, you know, to each one of them. All I do is change the name. But that's not a disingenuous way of dealing with it. It's just that if you've got 20 posts that are really good and you're saying, hey, good job, I like the way you're thinking and writing, that's it's accurate for all of them.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I had some, like, just basic questions for everybody that tend to come up, like, you know, how much time does this really take? About how much time do you think you were throwing into that, Lucia, to make sure that you were on top of your posts for the term?
Mine was a bit different because I had 2 topics or 2 kind of debates, 2 periods in a week. So there was a lot going on, and I'll just say, you know, I might spend longer than half an hour, I might spend an hour, or, you know, but because I was like, Cory, you know, I just got interested, and then I was just reading what they were saying. So then, you know, I might do something a bit more involved, like more systematic, like you're saying, but which are the features I really like to be able to pin the post so then they all see it, because the example was good. The leaderboard worked really well because, you know, you say that Ken was saying they get so competitive. So I will do something structured like that to make sure I wasn't missing on something. But then I'm just like going, oh, I just had a lunch. I'm just lying down here for a bit and I might just scroll, you know, my iPad or my phone, just so I had a better sense of how the whole discussion was. So yeah, maybe half an hour for the kind of more structure, but then I might spend, you know, any downtime and just looking.
Yeah. I was curious for anybody that's listening, if you had any, like, burning questions, Elizabeth, Lauren, Sam, Kevin, any questions that you had come up that you wanted to address?
Just wanted to just say it or type it.
No, you can say it.
Okay, because I was starting to type in the chatty box. Everybody does things differently. So my basic question is, of course, how much do the students have to pay above and beyond the cost of everything else they got to buy, do publisher tools, registration, tuition, all that crap? And what pushback or feedback is there over one more thing they have to subscribe to and pay for?
Well, the good thing for the second part is that we're actually integrated. We're actually pretty close to getting integrated here at Texas State LTI. So it'll be Packback could very well be in Canvas next term, which would be huge for having another place to go and another tool. It'll just feel like, you know, this is what they already had. As far as
and you say that as in the university is providing it for all faculty and students at no additional charge, or they're covering the fee as a global licensee?
I'm just saying that Packback is available. You can, when you're on Canvas, you can use it within Canvas without going to a separate website.
Okay, well, that's
Which
fine.
makes it a lot easier for the students.
Well, I
So
agree, but at what cost per student?
Sure. So it's $25 for the students. It's a book fee for the students. And every time they use Packback, they get a reduction of $3. So that may mean the next time they use it next term, or a concurrent course that's using Packback. And that
So
goes down all the way to $10.
So they get a cumulative repeat usage credit, but
Correct.
it's called different courses, different instructors.
So it's a waterfall structure.
Right. And then any negative pushback on students saying, well, I already have to buy the publisher tool or a textbook. I already paid tuition and fees. Why do I have to pay another $25?
Right. I would say the biggest negative feedback that we get is on, you know, having to buy Packback for you know, having to buy anything, basically, including the book, the textbook, or anything else. That's going to be the number one negative feedback. We don't get a lot of negative feedback on the platform or the experience or what it did for them in the class. That's actually all positive.
Well,
So,
only is, I would say it depends on the degree of integration into the course. If you only have like one thing to do all semester, and I pay $25 for this, versus, you know, something once a week or occasionally, not just,
Yes.
you know, every once in a while.
And
So
Kevin, that's one of the things that I come into play with, is to really, for us to figure out what's going to be the best way for us to explain Packback to your students, to help them understand the value of Packback and why you wanted them to use it. And so what we found is that when you're really transparent with students and say, hey, these are the skills that you need to have when you leave my class, this is the tool that's going to help you get those skills based on XYZ, they're a lot more likely to just take it seriously, because ultimately they understand that they are the ones that are going to attain these skills. So it's just a conversation around really presenting the value for students.
And I think to add to that, the percentage that you're offering of the grade to that, you know, I think customary is between 10 and 20%, depending on the modality and how you use it in the course. And this is a type of tool that improves over time. So, you know, if you just use it for 2 or 3 weeks, you're not going to see the same benefits as someone that uses it for 13 weeks, right? So that sort of consistency does matter.
Yeah, so you got to come up with some good posts, you know, if not once a week, every other week, or something like that throughout the semester.
Exactly.
How many students are in hardship cases that just say, I can't afford this, and I'll just take the 0 for all of those points?
That's a really great question, Kevin. So here at Packback, we have some scholarship opportunities available for students. So we have either deferred payment for students who are using scholarships or financial aid, where we'll push back that. But also for hardship, we can cover up to 5% of your courses, your students' fees. So if there is a hardship, they just let us know and we take care of it.
Okay, Kevin, if I could real quick. So I sign it every week, so they're getting use, and it's a fair amount, fair percentage of the course grade as well. So they're motivated to use it. But depending on what department that you are in, so for instance, my classes aren't super big. This semester, I think I've got 67 students, and so we're able to pay for that in the management department. So my students, my students don't pay a fee for Packback. but they do have to register. And so they do have to go through the steps of registering their account and all of that thing. But we've been lucky enough to be able to cover that in the management department. Now, I don't know how long that's going to continue because of,
budget cuts.
cuts and stuff like that. But as of now, we've been able to use some of those electronic course fees, I think, is where that's coming from to offset some of the cost or pay for the cost. So,
Yeah, awesome. Ken and I are in the 250 student club.
yeah, it's a little different.
I know for, oh,
They're
go ahead.
doing away with the electronic course fees starting next semester. So that's how it's been paid for in my course as well, but they're doing away with that. But, I tell students, education is not cheap. And that's just a fact. We're not going to compromise course expectations to meet individual budget concerns. I mean, college costs a lot of money. It just does. I didn't have any when I went, and I made it. And a lot of other people were having to do the same thing.
Yeah, so eco-finance and management both underwrite the cost either through electronic course fees or through other fund sources to cover it, so you don't really get the student negative feedback.
But we actually, I mean, working with as many professors as we do at Texas State, we also work with plenty that don't have that covered. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Because anything that's cost more money, it's always one more thing.
Of course.
And we're the ones that take the heat.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I didn't have any. I didn't have complaints about it. I knew of students that were on, like because they met whatever criteria to have some fees covered and stuff, tuition fees and stuff like that or whatever. So you're always aware of the ones that might be. Or you can say if there's an issue, come to me, and I can say I've come to RJ and I said, hey, can I have 3 or 4 or whatever where they don't have to pay, because I think this will really help them. And if you think about it, I mean, for a 16-week semester, it's not even $2 a week. What you say is like it always adds up. So I've done things before, like we're saying, well, I'm not going to set up a textbook for this capstone class this semester. I'm just going to do picking up articles so they can get for free in the library. So do like helping them out a little bit. But I really think, compared to all other things that they pay for, I really think it's like a really worth it, because of that feedback and that, like the question you had before, saving you time and energy without compromising. It's like, it's not saving me time and energy. It's like something that they wouldn't get otherwise, because I just don't have the time and the energy to be doing that.
Yeah.
So I just thought, it was worth it, because what they got out of it, it was just something that, like Cory's saying with this article, is something that is really going to help them. In CJ as well, it's like we need them to be able to write properly. We need them to, just those writing skills and questioning things. So it is something else, but, like Kenny's saying, it's just like, it all, I mean, it's the least, just tuition fees, so they're so great. But if there's some way of covering it with, electronic fees and stuff like that, that extra income that departments are talking, just ask your chair if that's something that you're concerned about. But it wasn't, the ones I was concerned about, I was able to say, make the students free. Yeah.
And we're happy to do it. So
yeah.
I'm going to skip over some of Ken's like amazing like engagement, some of those things. And I don't think we even got to the second question that I wanted to do, but the last thing I wanted to do was just share, this is from, Ken's community. And just, this is actually pretty normal distribution of like how many posts you'd see in a week on Packback, and what percentage of those is, 1 post, 2 posts, 3 posts, or 4 posts. And we pretty consistently see that students meet this expectation for asking 1 question and responding to 2, and then pretty often we see students exceeding that expectation with 4 posts or more. So just wanted to share that stat. And I know we're a little over time, so I just wanted to conclude by thanking our panel for so graciously, sharing your experience. I really appreciate it. Rakita and I are in your debt, and also, if Elizabeth and Sam, if you'd like a consultation, or for me to take a look at your course, this is how you reach me. So thanks again, everybody, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And if I can, just real quick on a final note, the customer service that you get with Packback is absolutely out of this world. So I just wanted to throw that out there because they do just a phenomenal job. So thank you, RJ and Rakita.
Oh, thank you so much, Cory, for that.
No, that's true. And I was just going to say as well, Elizabeth and Kevin, you know where to find me. It's just that all the email addresses in the system. So any questions that you have, if you want to contact directly, then that's totally fine too. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All
And
right.
have a good rest of your day.
Yep.